Hello, this is Heather Hoffman, and I have a card today, very simple, with a few layers that I'm going to share with you using a few different techniques. Starting off with some simple Copic coloring for my main part of my image that I already have stamped out on a bit of white cardstock. I'm just going to color it all in, and then I'm going to fussy cut the edges out once I've got the layer of color done. And I've kind of been just doing some simple coloring with my Copics a little bit lately, and sometimes it's so easy to feel like you need to combine tons of different Copic colors, and sometimes it is fun to do that, but every once in a while it's fun just to kind of go back to basics, and kind of reminds me of coloring when you were a kid and you just had a coloring book that you wanted to color, and we didn't use 4 different crayons to color one part, and so it's kind of fun to get back to those basics a little bit here. I am going to add 2 colors to each of the areas. Some of the ones I've done lately, I've done shading with just 1 shade of Copic marker, but on this particular one I'm going to use a lighter and darker shade is all. Just enough to add a little bit of outline and shading and depth. They're very similar colors, so it's not a lot of difference, but it's enough just to add a little bit of realism to the image without a ton of extra work or having to spend a lot of time working on it. So I've left the lid sitting there so you can see each color as I work on it. And that's just about the end here. We're going to finish off a little bit of shading on this and adding a few little dots just to add some more texture. And now I've pulled out my detail scissors and I'm going to fussy cut this out. I'm not going directly on the lines, but I'm kind of going sort of as close as I can without actually touching the line. I don't mind a tiny bit of a white border on this card that I'm doing, but I didn't want a really particularly wide one. I just wanted it to mainly be the image, but I didn't want to have to try and get completely touching, but you can see how well that did it, just cutting out the edges there. Now I'm pulling out some pattern paper that I kind of had coordinated already to the card before I did the coloring. And I'm going to start off with a pretty leaf background, and then along the top I want to add my sentiment, and I've already got that stamped on a piece of white cardstock as well, and I wanted to add a torn edge along the bottom, just a little bit for some texture, and to help it kind of pop off the background. It was a little too similar, the white on that neutral background, so I added a little bit of kind of a patterned green paper to go on there, and I tore the edge so it would match up, but add an extra layer and bit of texture on there as well. I trimmed it down to the size I wanted, and then I'm going to pop that up with a little bit of foam adhesive on the background and adhere that on there. And if you have thin paper like that, if you aren't careful when you put your foam adhesive on, it wants to curl up and bend that. So I pulled it off to kind of fix that a little bit of foam adhesive on the back of that girl that we've colored and fussy cut out. Pop it on there, and there you go, a super simple, fun card design. I love this new stamp image that just released as well. Thanks so much for coming by today. Hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful day.